You'll never be anything but a black woman who forgot her place. Lieutenant Hayes smashes Dr. Washington's face against the interrogation table. Blood splashes onto the warrant bearing Judge Donovan's fresh signature. Hayes tosses ice water at her. Consider this your final lesson, Professor. The evidence against her is laughably fabricated. 3 senior police officers and a corrupt judge all conspiring to frame one criminal justice professor whose research threatens their power. Washington tastes copper but doesn't flinch. The handcuffs dig into her wrists as she calculates her next move. 48 hours until a trial designed to destroy her. They grabbed the wrong woman. They planted evidence too sloppily. And most critically, they have no idea she counts security cameras while they brutalize her. Judge Donovan's signature isn't just on a warrant. It's on her career's death certificate. Washington's eyes narrow slightly. They'll call her something very different soon. Boss. 1 week earlier, Mayor Garcia's office gleams with polished mahogany and purpose. The city's first Latino mayor slides a confidential folder across his desk to Dr. Zoe Washington. Morning light streams through bulletproof windows, illuminating decades of systemic corruption in black and white. 15 officers, 3 judges, countless lives destroyed. Garcia taps the report, including your brothers. Washington's fingers trace the heavy mayoral seal on the preliminary corruption report. Marcus lost 15 years of his life to their lies. That's why I need you, Dr. Washington. Garcia's voice drops. The police commissioner position. It's yours if you want it. The wall clock ticks loudly between them. Washington stares at the sealed FBI file on Judge Patricia Donovan. The appointment becomes official in 72 hours, Garcia continues. But I need you to keep it completely confidential until the announcement. Washington straightens her spine. I want to finish my current research project first. It documents every corrupt case Hayes and his crew have touched. That's dangerous. Garcia's brow furrows. If they suspect, they won't. Washington's voice carries absolute certainty. They'll see what they expect to see, just another academic poking around the system. And if they come after you? Washington smiles thinly. Let them. Every move they make against me becomes evidence against them. The appointment letter awaits her signature. The heavy fountain pen feels like justice in her hand. They think they're untouchable. Washington signs with perfect precision. But they've never faced someone who understands their system better than they do. Garcia seals the envelope containing her new badge. When do you plan to tell them? At the perfect moment, when it's too late for them to escape accountability. The badge in this envelope won't just give her authority, it'll give her justice. They think they'll be framing a professor, but they're actually framing their boss. Marcus lost 15 years of his life to their corruption. They're about to lose everything. Boston Police Headquarters hums with institutional power. Dr. Washington strides through security with her university credentials prominently displayed. The receptionist directs her to the 3rd floor with practiced indifference. Dr. Washington. Lieutenant Hayes approaches with a shark's smile. His hand extends, but his eyes remain cold. The department appreciates your interest in our procedures. Washington shakes his hand firmly. My criminal justice students benefit from understanding real-world applications. Hayes gestures to a conference room where 2 other officers wait. I've asked Captain Spencer from Internal Affairs to join us. He's quite interested in your research. William Spencer rises from his chair. His Internal Affairs badge gleams under fluorescent lights. His handshake is deliberately crushing. Academics often misunderstand police work, Dr. Washington. I'm here to ensure accuracy. That's exactly why I'm conducting interviews rather than making assumptions. Washington opens her laptop, positioning it precisely. May I record our conversation for research purposes? Hayes exchanges glances with Spencer. Department policy requires approval for recordings. Of course. Washington closes the laptop without argument. I'll take notes instead. The interview begins cordially. Washington asks routine questions about department structure, report filing procedures, case assignment. Hayes answers with rehearsed precision while Spencer watches her like a hawk circling prey. Let's discuss your clearance rates. Washington flips to a new page in her notebook. I've analyzed public data showing a statistical anomaly in drug cases prosecuted by Judge Donovan's court. Hayes's posture stiffens. Statistics can be misleading without context. I completely agree. Washington smiles professionally. That's why I'd like to examine some case files from the last 3 years, particularly cases involving first-time offenders receiving maximum sentences. Spencer leans forward. Those files require special clearance, which I've already received from the district attorney's office. Washington slides over an official permission letter. Specifically for cases where evidence was collected by your narcotics unit, Lieutenant Hayes. The temperature in the room seems to drop. Hayes's jaw tightens. I'll need to verify this. Of course. Washington closes her notebook. While you do, perhaps I could speak with some patrol officers about daily procedures? Spencer nods curtly. I'll arrange it. Outside the conference room, Officer Eric Johnson waits. Young, black, and visibly uncomfortable with his assignment. Officer Johnson will assist you for the remainder of your visit. Spencer's tone makes clear this is surveillance, not courtesy. Johnson leads Washington through the building. His answers start terse, but gradually become more thoughtful as Washington asks about community engagement and procedural fairness. You don't sound like most professors, Johnson admits as they pause by the water cooler. Conversations halt as they pass, resuming in hushed tones behind them. How many professors have you met, Officer Johnson? Not many, he concedes with a slight smile. Washington notices his gaze lingering on a framed photo of Hayes receiving a commendation. Something flickers across Johnson's face. Doubt. That case made Lieutenant Hayes' career, Johnson explains. Drug kingpin, multiple murders. Impressive conviction record. Washington sips her water. No cases overturned on appeal? Johnson hesitates a beat too long. None that I know of. The sharp click of a door lock interrupts them. Hayes emerges from an office, his expression thunderous. He strides directly to Washington. Your research has some serious methodological flaws, Dr. Washington. His voice carries through the hallway, ensuring an audience. You're cherry-picking cases to support a predetermined narrative. Washington maintains perfect composure. I'm simply following the evidence, Lieutenant. That's what good investigators do. Your so-called evidence lacks context. Hayes steps closer, intimidation radiating from his posture. I've read your previous papers. You have a clear bias against law enforcement. I have a bias toward justice. Washington doesn't back away, which sometimes requires asking uncomfortable questions. Spencer appears at Hayes' shoulder. We've reviewed your request. Those case files are part of ongoing investigations. Access denied. That contradicts the DA's authorization. Take it up with them. Hayes smiles coldly. We're done here for today. Johnson shifts uncomfortably beside them. Hayes notices. Johnson, escort Dr. Washington out. Make sure she signs out properly. In the elevator, Johnson stands stiffly. Washington studies his reflection in the polished doors. You've been here 3 years, Officer Johnson? He nods. Yes, ma'am. You believe in the oath you took? The elevator stops. Doors open. Johnson meets her eyes directly for the first time. Every word of it. Washington hands him her card. If you ever want to discuss that oath in detail, my office hours are on there. Hayes watches from the lobby as Johnson escorts her out. His phone is already at his ear. We have a problem, he mutters to the person on the other end. The professor knows too much. Hayes thinks he's setting a trap, but he's actually building his own cage. They're watching her every move, but they don't realize she's counting their mistakes. The evidence they plan to plant tonight will become Exhibit A against them. Dr. Washington's university office sits quiet in the early evening. Campus security cameras record 3 men in maintenance uniforms entering the Criminal Justice Building at 9:42 p.m. They carry toolboxes and work authorization forms signed by the facility's director. 2 hours later, Washington returns to her office. She unlocks her door and flips on the light. Something feels immediately wrong. The air smells different. Papers on her desk sit at slightly different angles than she left them. She notices a small scuff mark on her bookshelf that wasn't there before. Her eyes travel deliberately to the corner where she installed her own hidden camera last month. Washington opens her desk drawer and freezes. A plastic bag containing white powder sits atop her research notes. Beside it, a manila folder marked Confidential Boston PD contains case files she's never seen before. She doesn't touch either item. Instead, she takes out her phone and calls campus security. "This is Dr. Washington in criminal justice. I need to report a break-in and planted evidence in my office." The responding officers arrive quickly. Too quickly. They're Boston PD, not campus security. Lieutenant Hayes steps through her doorway with a search warrant in hand. "Anonymous tip about stolen police files and narcotics," he announces with poorly concealed satisfaction. Judge Donovan was quite concerned. The officers search with theatrical thoroughness, finding exactly what they planted. Camera flashes punctuate the moment as evidence is documented. Washington stands perfectly still, watching every move, memorizing every face. "Dr. Zoe Washington, you're under arrest for possession of controlled substances and theft of confidential police documents." Hayes snaps handcuffs around her wrists with unnecessary force. "You have the right to remain silent." The hallway has filled with students and faculty. Hayes ensures the walk of shame is as public as possible. Whispers follow them. Professor Washington arrested. Drugs in her office. Police files. Internal Affairs Director Spencer waits by the police cruiser. His smirk vanishes when Washington looks directly into his eyes without a trace of fear. "Your research materials are being confiscated as evidence," Spencer informs her, waving officers toward her office. "All electronic devices, notes, and records. I assume you have the proper warrants for my intellectual property?" Washington's voice remains steady. "All perfectly legal," Hayes assures her, loud enough for witnesses. "Unlike your activities." The ride to the precinct passes in silence. Washington stares out the window, mentally calculating timelines and vulnerabilities. Hayes watches her in the rearview mirror, mistaking her calm for defeat. The processing area hums with late-night efficiency. Fingerprints, mugshots, personal belongings cataloged and confiscated. Washington notices Officer Johnson at a desk, his eyes widening briefly before he looks away. Judge Donovan arrives at the station near midnight, an unusual hour for a judge to appear for a routine academic's arrest. She signs additional warrants with barely a glance at the supporting documents. "Preliminary hearing is scheduled for Thursday morning," Donovan informs Hayes, ignoring Washington completely. "Keep her contained until then." "No bail?" Washington finally speaks. Donovan addresses her with cold disdain. "Flight risk. Potential to destroy evidence." The cell door closes with a heavy clang. Washington sits on the thin mattress, back straight, face unreadable. Down the hall, Hayes opens champagne in the break room. Officers toast to the professor's downfall. "That should end her little investigation," Spencer laughs. "Who's going to believe a drug-using professor who steals police files?" In her cell, Washington lies back and stares at the ceiling. She's calculated every move, anticipated every reaction. The chess pieces are exactly where they need to be. They're celebrating tonight, drinking to her downfall. Their glasses might as well be filled with evidence. The handcuffs felt cold, but not as cold as the justice that's coming. Her new office is already prepared. They just don't know it's the commissioner's. Officer Eric Johnson sits alone in the precinct's evidence room. The arrest video plays on his monitor for the third time. Something doesn't add up. The timestamp on the anonymous tip, 10:37 p.m. The warrant approval, 10:42 p.m. 5 minutes for Judge Donovan to review evidence and approve a search warrant, a process that typically takes hours. Johnson pauses the footage, zooming in on Washington's face. No surprise when they discovered the drugs. Almost as if she expected them. His cursor hovers over the database search bar. He types, Washington Marcus. The system returns a case file from 15 years ago. Drug possession, felony charges, maximum sentence from Judge Donovan. Prosecuting attorney, William Spencer, before his internal affairs promotion. Arresting officer, Robert Hayes, then a patrol sergeant. Johnson reads deeper. Multiple appeal attempts, all denied. Claims of planted evidence, all dismissed. The parallels to Dr. Washington's situation twist Johnson's stomach into knots. The cell block remains quiet at 3 a.m. Johnson nods to the night guard, claiming a forgotten interview form needs signing. The guard barely looks up from his phone. Dr. Washington sits upright on her cell bunk, eyes open, as if she's been expecting him. Officer Johnson. Her voice betrays no fear, no desperation. Working late? Just following up on some paperwork. He glances at the security camera in the corner, its red light off. Maintenance said the surveillance system needs updating, should be fixed by morning. Washington's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in her eyes. Recognition. Understanding. I looked up your brother's case, Johnson says quietly. Did you find it educational? Found it familiar. Johnson leans against the bars. Same judge, same lead officer, same sudden discovery of evidence. Quite the coincidence. Washington approaches the bars, keeping her voice low. Do you believe in coincidences, Officer Johnson? Less and less each day. He hesitates. The department isn't what I thought it would be when I joined. Few institutions are. Washington studies him carefully. Why are you here at 3 a.m., Officer Johnson? Because something doesn't feel right. The warrant came too fast. The evidence appeared too conveniently. Johnson meets her gaze. And because my grandmother taught me that justice matters more than loyalty to corrupt men. The cell block remains silent except for distant snoring. Johnson checks his watch. Hayes has a system, he continues. He targets people who question his cases. 3 reporters, a defense attorney, now you. And what happens to these people? Careers ruined. Charges eventually dropped, but the damage is done. Nobody looks too closely at how convenient it all was. Washington nods slowly. And internal affairs? Spencer protects Hayes. They go way back. What about the financial side? Washington asks. Officers on Hayes's task force seem to live beyond their means. Johnson's expression tightens. There are rumors about seizure funds that never make it to evidence, cash that disappears between arrests and booking. Rumors can't be verified without evidence. Evidence can be found by someone with proper access. Johnson straightens his uniform. Someone who knows where to look. Washington considers him carefully. That someone would be taking a significant risk. Maybe that someone is tired of being part of a system that betrays everything it claims to stand for. A door opens somewhere down the hall. Johnson steps back from the cell. Check dashboard camera footage from Unit 37, May 15th, Washington whispers. And Lieutenant Hayes's case records from 2020-2021. Focus on financial disclosures after major drug busts. Johnson nods almost imperceptibly. I need to go. Officer Johnson. Washington calls softly as he turns. Why risk your career for someone you barely know? He pauses, looking back. Because I recognized your brother's name. I grew up 3 blocks from him in Roxbury. He used to help kids with math homework at the community center. Never believed he was guilty. The night guard rounds the corner. Johnson raises his voice. Like I said, Dr. Washington, confessing now would make things easier for everyone. He walks away, ignoring the guard's curious glance. Washington returns to her bunk, face impassive. But inside, the first pieces of her counteroffensive slide into place. Hours later, dawn breaks over the holding cells. Washington hasn't slept. Her mind catalogs evidence, witnesses, timelines. The cell door opens. A different officer appears. Your lawyer's here. The meeting room contains a woman Washington has never met, but recognizes immediately. Mayor Garcia's legal advisor. Maya Patel, the woman introduces herself once they're alone. The mayor sent me. Tell him I'm proceeding as planned, Washington responds, though they moved faster than anticipated. Bail hearing is at 11. Patel slides documents across the table. The mayor has arranged everything. You'll be released to house arrest pending the preliminary hearing. And my research materials? We're working on it. Patel lowers her voice. Your cloud backups are secure. Your former student, James Chen, accessed them last night. Washington allows herself the smallest smile. Hayes will be watching me after release. Count on it. Good. Let's make sure he sees exactly what we want him to see. In the precinct bullpen, Johnson watches Hayes and Spencer huddle with Judge Donovan near the coffee machine. Their confidence is palpable. The case against Washington seems airtight. A respected professor caught with drugs and stolen files, her credibility destroyed, her investigation into departmental corruption discredited before it could begin. Johnson turns to his computer, beginning the slow, careful process of accessing records no rookie officer should be examining. His hands remain steady, but his heart pounds with each keystroke. What he finds turns his blood cold. Discrepancies in evidence logs, suspicious timing in case filings, financial transactions between Hayes's private account and an offshore LLC that traces back to Judge Donovan's husband. The first crack has appeared in their wall of corruption. By tomorrow, it'll be a flood. Officer Johnson just became Washington's eyes and ears inside a department that will soon be hers. He doesn't realize he's not just saving her career, he's saving his own. Mayor Garcia's office buzzes with controlled urgency. The digital timer on his desk counts down, 36 hours until the commissioner announcement. A perfect storm brewing to maximum effect. Dr. Washington's release is confirmed, his assistant reports. Judge Sanderson granted bail despite Donovan's objections, house arrest with electronic monitoring. Garcia nods, scanning the morning headlines. No mention of Washington's arrest yet. Hayes is keeping it quiet, building his case before going public. A tactical error. Across town, Washington steps through her front door, ankle monitor secured. The police cruiser remains parked across the street, surveillance obvious by design. She draws her curtains part way, allowing strategic glimpses of her movements. Her secure phone vibrates. A text from her former student, James Chen. Cloud backup retrieved. Analysis underway. Washington activates her laptop, knowing every keystroke is likely monitored. She begins typing an email with the subject line, Legal Defense Strategy, intended for eyes other than the recipients. Meanwhile, Officer Johnson accesses dashboard camera footage from Unit 37. The video shows Hayes and Spencer meeting Judge Donovan in a parking garage on May 15th, the exact date Washington suggested. Cash changes hands. Conversation occurs beyond microphone range, but body language tells the story. Johnson downloads the file to an encrypted drive, then carefully erases his digital footprints from the system. His phone vibrates with a text from an unknown number. Coffee shop across from library, 3 p.m. At precisely 3 p.m., Johnson sits at an outdoor table, uniform replaced by civilian clothes. Washington's former student James Chen appears, orders coffee, and sits nearby without acknowledgement. When Johnson leaves, he discovers a flash drive in his jacket pocket. Washington receives Johnson's findings that evening through an encrypted channel. The evidence is compelling, but not yet conclusive. They need financial records to connect the dots. Search for transactions between Hayes and Coastal Investment Partners, LLC, Washington instructs through their secure channel. Then cross-reference with Donovan's husband's consulting clients. In her kitchen, Washington prepares tea while watching the surveillance car outside. The officers think they're monitoring a desperate academic scrambling to save her reputation. They don't see the counterintelligence operation unfolding around them. Mayor Garcia confirms the preliminary hearing is scheduled for 10 a.m. Thursday, immediately followed by the commissioner announcement at noon. The timing couldn't be more perfect. "Are you sure about this timeline?" Garcia asks during their encrypted call. "It leaves no margin for error." "It creates maximum impact," Washington responds, "and ensures none of them can escape the consequences." Johnson works through the night, piecing together financial evidence. The connections become clear. Hayes funnels seized drug money through Coastal Investments, which pays consulting fees to Judge Donovan's husband. Spencer's internal affairs position provides protection through selective investigations. By dawn, Johnson has compiled enough evidence to launch a federal investigation, but Washington's plan requires precision timing. "Hold everything until the hearing," she instructs. "When I give the signal, deliver the complete file to the courthouse." Tomorrow's headline won't be about her arrest. It'll be about their fall. They're preparing for a preliminary hearing, but she's preparing for a reckoning. The mayor's timing couldn't be more perfect, justice served with a side of irony. Judge Donovan's private chamber exudes power and privilege. Mahogany furnishings, law books rarely opened, awards from police organizations prominently displayed. Washington sits across from her, no longer wearing handcuffs but still under guard. Officer Johnson stands by the door, recording device concealed in his uniform pocket. "This meeting is highly irregular, Dr. Washington." Donovan's fingers tap nervously on her desk. "Your attorney should be present." "I wanted to speak with you directly." Washington leans forward. Woman to woman. Donovan's eyes narrow with suspicion. About? About why a respected judge with 20 years on the bench would risk everything to frame an academic. "That's absurd." Donovan's voice rises slightly. "The evidence against you is substantial." "The planted evidence, you mean?" Washington remains perfectly calm. "The drugs and files that appeared in my office after 3 men in maintenance uniforms visited a building they had no authority to enter." Sweat beads on Donovan's forehead despite the room's cool temperature. "You can't prove any of that." "Campus security cameras show them entering. My own camera shows them planting evidence." Washington watches recognition dawn in Donovan's eyes. "But that's not why I'm here." "Then why?" Donovan glances at Officer Johnson, calculating risks. "I want to understand why you're protecting Hayes and Spencer. You've had a distinguished career, why throw it away?" Donovan's composure cracks slightly. "You don't understand the situation." "I understand more than you think." Washington slides a paper across the desk. "This is a list of cases where you approved warrants in under 10 minutes. All Hayes' cases, all resulting in convenient evidence discoveries." "Where did you get this?" Donovan whispers. "I also have records of payments from Coastal Investment Partners to your husband's consulting firm." Washington maintains steady eye contact. "Payments that correlate perfectly with major drug busts by Hayes' team." Donovan's face pales. "Spencer has photos of my daughter." "What photos?" "She struggled with addiction last year. Spencer found her buying drugs." Donovan's voice breaks. "He said he'd release the photos, claim she was dealing, destroy her life unless I cooperated." "So you signed warrants without reading them, approved evidence that you knew was suspect." Donovan nods almost imperceptibly. "It started small, Just procedural shortcuts. Then it escalated. How many innocent people have gone to prison because of these shortcuts? Donovan stares at her hands. I tell myself they were all guilty of something. Like my brother Marcus was guilty of something? Washington's voice remains controlled, but her eyes flash. 15 years for drugs that Hayes planted in his apartment. Recognition dawns on Donovan's face. Washington. That case. I remember. You denied every appeal, every motion for new evidence, every claim of police misconduct. Spencer runs internal affairs. Donovan's voice drops to a whisper. He buries complaints against Hayes. Controls which cases get investigated. It's bigger than you realize. Bigger than Operation Clean Slate, Washington says quietly. Donovan's head snaps up. How do you know that name? I know more than you think, Judge Donovan. Washington leans back. The question is, what are you going to do now? What can I do? They'll destroy my daughter. Or you can help end this. Testify about the coercion, the falsified warrants, the pattern of corruption. They'll never let me live long enough to testify. Unless they're arrested first. Washington stands. Full immunity. Protection for your daughter. A chance to make amends. Donovan stares at the award from the Police Benevolent Association on her wall. 20 years of compromise and corruption crystallized in a meaningless plaque. What would you need from me? She finally asks. The truth, starting with Hayes' operation. How many officers are involved, how the money flows, everything. Johnson shifts position by the door, his recorder capturing every word. Think carefully, Judge Donovan. Washington's voice softens slightly. This is your one chance to choose the right side of history. Tears form in Donovan's eyes. Spencer is the key. He's built an empire within the department. Hayes is just his enforcer. And the evidence against me? Completely fabricated on Spencer's orders. I signed the warrant without reading it. Donovan wipes her eyes. I'll put it in writing. All of it. As Washington leaves the chambers, Johnson follows at a professional distance. The recorder in his pocket contains the beginning of a cascade that will topple an entire corrupt system. Judge Donovan just made the wisest decision of her career, choosing the right side of history. The recorder in Washington's pocket just captured the beginning of the end for Hayes. Tomorrow, the courtroom won't just be a place of law. It'll be a place of reckoning. The courtroom buzzes with anticipation. Police officers line the back wall, Hayes and Spencer among them. Their confident smirks suggest a foregone conclusion. Dr. Washington sits beside her attorney, her posture relaxed despite the stakes. Judge Raymond Harris presides. Not Donovan. An unexpected complication that Hayes notices too late. Your Honor, Washington's attorney begins, we move for immediate dismissal based on significant procedural violations. Spencer leans toward Hayes, whispering urgently. Hayes scans the courtroom, finally noticing Donovan's absence. The search warrant for Dr. Washington's office was approved without proper review of evidence, the attorney continues. Furthermore, campus security footage contradicts the timeline presented in the police report. Judge Harris frowns. These are serious allegations, Counselor. We have documentation, Your Honor. She presents a file containing campus security logs and timestamp discrepancies. The prosecutor scrambles, unprepared for this challenge. Your Honor, we request time to review these new materials and respond appropriately. 24-hour continuance granted, Judge Harris announces. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. sharp. Hayes's face darkens with rage as Washington stands. This wasn't supposed to happen. The case was supposed to be airtight, the judge sympathetic. In the courthouse hallway, a tall man waits by the water fountain. Marcus Washington, Dr. Washington's brother, 15 years older than in his last free photograph. hardened by imprisonment but standing straight and dignified. Zoe. His voice breaks slightly as they embrace. The siblings hold each other tightly, a moment of genuine emotion in the midst of strategic warfare. "They're watching," Washington whispers against her brother's shoulder. "Let them." Marcus steps back, adjusting his tie. "This suit still fits after all these years. Mom kept it for me." Officer Johnson approaches, professional but respectful. "Dr. Washington, your attorney asked me to deliver these files for review before tomorrow's hearing." The manila envelope contains everything: financial records linking Hayes and Spencer to Judge Donovan's husband, bank statements showing suspicious deposits after major drug busts, dashboard camera footage of their clandestine meetings. "Wear your best suit tomorrow," Washington tells Marcus quietly. "It's going to be a historic day." 24 hours, exactly the time she needs for justice to come full circle. Hayes thinks he's just delayed the inevitable. He doesn't know how right he is. Tomorrow's hearing won't be about her guilt. It'll be about theirs. Courtroom 302 fills beyond capacity. Reporters crowd the back row, drawn by whispers of corruption allegations against prominent police officials. Hayes and Spencer sit directly behind the prosecution table, concern creeping into their confident facades. Judge Harris enters promptly at 10 a.m. "Court is now in session." It is now in. Dr. Washington sits calmly beside her attorney. Marcus occupies the front row of spectators, immaculate in his preserved suit. Officer Johnson stands at attention near the bailiff, his expression professionally neutral. The courtroom doors open. Mayor Garcia enters with his chief of staff and 2 federal agents. Hayes stiffens, nudging Spencer. Something is wrong. "Your Honor," Washington's attorney begins. "Before we address the charges against my client, we move to introduce evidence of severe misconduct by the arresting officers and departmental leadership." The prosecutor jumps to his feet. "Objection. This hearing concerns only the charges against Dr. Washington." "The charges and the misconduct are inseparably linked, Your Honor," Washington's attorney counters. "The evidence will show that my client was deliberately framed to discredit her research into departmental corruption." Judge Harris considers momentarily. "I'll allow it. Proceed." The court calls Officer Eric Johnson. Johnson takes the stand, his uniform pressed, his demeanor resolute. Hayes glares at him with undisguised fury. "Officer Johnson, please tell the court what you discovered regarding the search warrant for Dr. Washington's office." "The warrant was approved by Judge Donovan 5 minutes after the anonymous tip was received," Johnson testifies. "Department protocol requires thorough review of evidence supporting probable cause. This review typically takes hours, not minutes." "And did you investigate further?" "Yes." Johnson's voice strengthens. "I accessed dashboard camera footage from Police Unit 37 on May 15th of this year." Washington's attorney activates the courtroom display. The video clearly shows Hayes and Spencer meeting Judge Donovan in a parking garage. Money changes hands. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Hayes half rises before his lawyer yanks him back down. "Your Honor," the prosecutor protests, "this footage was obtained without proper authorization." "Actually," Johnson continues, "I accessed it through official channels during a legitimate internal review. My oath requires reporting suspected corruption." Washington's attorney presents a second exhibit. "These are bank records showing transfers from Coastal Investment Partners LLC to RBD Consulting, owned by Judge Donovan's husband." The evidence mounts methodically. Financial records showing Hayes living far beyond his salary. Documentation of cases where evidence mysteriously appeared after Hayes obtained quick warrants from Donovan. A pattern spanning years, claiming dozens of victims. Spencer whispers urgently to his attorney. Hayes sits frozen, watching his empire crumble. "Your Honor," Washington's attorney continues, "we have one more witness. The court calls Judge Patricia Donovan." The courtroom erupts in shocked murmurs. Donovan enters from the judge's chambers, ashen-faced but determined. Hayes lunges to his feet. You backstabbing— Sit down, Lieutenant, Judge Harris commands. One more outburst and you'll be removed. Donovan takes the stand, her hands trembling slightly as she's sworn in. Judge Donovan, did you sign a search warrant for Dr. Washington's office on the night of her arrest? Yes. Donovan's voice strengthens with each word. Without reviewing the supporting evidence, without verifying probable cause. Why would you do that? Internal Affairs Director Spencer was blackmailing me. Tears form in Donovan's eyes. He threatened to frame my daughter for drug dealing if I didn't cooperate with their operation. Spencer rises, face contorted with rage. Federal agents move to block his path to the exit. How long has this been happening? Washington's attorney asks. Years, dozens of cases. Donovan stares directly at Hayes, including the case against Marcus Washington 15 years ago. The evidence was planted. I knew it and denied his appeals anyway. Marcus closes his eyes briefly, vindication washing over his face. And the charges against Dr. Zoe Washington? Completely fabricated. Donovan's voice breaks. They targeted her because her research was uncovering their corruption network. The drugs and files found in her office were planted by officers under Hayes's command. The courtroom falls silent as the magnitude of the corruption becomes clear. Judge Harris removes his glasses, visibly shaken. Your Honor, Washington's attorney states, in light of this testimony, we move for immediate dismissal of all charges against Dr. Washington and a formal investigation into Lieutenant Hayes, Director Spencer, and all officers involved in this conspiracy. So ordered, Judge Harris declares without hesitation. Bailiff, take Lieutenant Hayes and Director Spencer into custody pending formal charges. As officers move to arrest their former superiors, Mayor Garcia approaches the bench. Your Honor, with the court's indulgence, I have a brief announcement relevant to these proceedings. Judge Harris nods his approval. Garcia turns to face the packed courtroom. In light of the systemic failures revealed today, I've appointed new leadership to reform the Boston Police Department. He gestures toward Washington. Dr. Zoe Washington has accepted the position of police commissioner, effective immediately. Color drains from Hayes's face as understanding dawns. The professor he tried to destroy will now control his entire department. Washington rises, accepting the badge and credentials from the mayor. Her expression remains composed, but her eyes meet Hayes's with quiet triumph. Commissioner Washington has already begun a comprehensive review of all cases handled by the officers implicated today, Garcia continues. Her brother's wrongful conviction will be the first of many to be overturned. As Hayes and Spencer are led away in handcuffs, Washington approaches her brother. Their embrace speaks volumes. 15 years of injustice beginning to heal. Officer Johnson stands at attention, awaiting his new commissioner's orders. Washington extends her hand. The department needs officers with your integrity, Johnson. How would you feel about heading a new internal integrity unit? The look on Hayes's face is worth 15 years of waiting. The badge Washington accepts isn't just a symbol of authority, it's a promise of accountability. Justice doesn't always come quickly, but today it comes completely. 1 month later, Boston Police Headquarters buzzes with renewed purpose. The Commissioner's Office, once Spencer's fortress of corruption, now houses Dr. Zoe Washington. The walls display her criminal justice degrees alongside a single photograph. Marcus Washington at his recent job interview, smiling in a new suit. The door opens. Officer, now Lieutenant, Eric Johnson enters with the latest integrity report. 27 cases identified for review so far, Commissioner, Johnson reports. The DA's office has already moved to vacate 11 convictions where evidence was clearly planted. Washington nods, studying the list of names. Lives disrupted by corruption, families torn apart by fabricated evidence, a system that failed its most vulnerable. What about the officers involved? She asks. Hayes and Spencer remain in custody awaiting trial. No bail. Johnson's satisfaction is evident. 3 officers have accepted plea deals in exchange for testimony, 6 more under investigation. And Judge Donovan? Resigned from the bench, cooperating fully with federal prosecutors. Johnson hesitates. Her testimony will bring down half the narcotics division. Sunlight streams through the office windows as Washington rises from her desk. Walk with me, Lieutenant. They move through the building together. Officers nod respectfully as they pass, some with genuine admiration, others with lingering wariness. Changing a culture doesn't happen overnight. The security cameras you mentioned during your arrest, Johnson says quietly. You knew they'd try to frame you. I counted on it. Washington stops at a window overlooking the precinct bullpen. Their predictability made them vulnerable. The same tactics they used against my brother. They never imagined their target would become their boss. The bullpen hums with activity. New faces among the veteran officers. New protocols being implemented. A department slowly healing from its self-inflicted wounds. Your brother's official exoneration comes through tomorrow? Johnson asks. Yes, along with financial compensation that can never replace 15 years. Washington's voice remains steady. But it's a start. They continue to the conference room where recruit training is underway. Washington pauses at the door, listening to the instructor. Integrity isn't just a word on the department motto, the trainer explains to attentive cadets. It's a daily choice. A commitment that sometimes means standing alone against corruption. Washington enters the room. The recruits immediately stand at attention. At ease, she says. I just want to observe. Taking a seat at the back, Washington watches these future officers. Young men and women who will shape the department's legacy. Their choices will determine whether the reforms take root or wither. Commissioner, a young woman raises her hand. How do we rebuild public trust after everything that happened? Washington considers the question carefully. One interaction at a time, one case handled with integrity, one citizen treated with respect. She stands, addressing the entire class. The badge isn't just a symbol of authority, it's a promise to protect those who cannot protect themselves. After the training session, Washington returns to her office. Mayor Garcia waits with the final report on Spencer's corruption network. 17 officers, 4 judges, dozens of tainted cases. Garcia shakes his head. It goes deeper than we imagined. And broader, Washington adds. The FBI found connections to 3 other departments along the East Coast. Your Operation Clean Slate initiative is getting national attention, Garcia notes. Other cities are requesting your reform playbook. Washington moves to the window. Reform isn't about revenge, it's about rebuilding what was broken. Speaking of rebuilding, Garcia continues, your brother's foundation for exonerees is gaining traction. 5 corporate sponsors already. Marcus always was the better public speaker. Pride warms Washington's voice. 15 years in prison, and his first thought upon release was how to help others. As evening falls, Washington leaves headquarters. The weight of her new badge still feels strange against her chest, so different from the professor's ID she wore just months ago. She finds Marcus waiting in the car. His face has begun to lose the haunted look of imprisonment. How was your day, Commissioner? He asks with a smile. Challenging. Rewarding. She settles into the passenger seat. Yours? 3 more exonerees joined the support group. Marcus starts the engine. Men who lost years to Hayes and Spencer's fabricated evidence. They're finding their way back, just like me. They drive in comfortable silence for a moment. The city lights reflect off buildings just beginning to illuminate against the darkening sky. Was it worth it? Marcus finally asks. Putting yourself at risk like that? Letting them arrest you when you could have exposed them from a position of safety? Washington watches the city pass by. Her city now, in many ways. Some lessons can only be taught through experience. Hayes and Spencer needed to feel the same powerlessness they inflicted on others. Poetic justice. Just justice. Washington corrects gently. The system failed you, failed dozens of others. But the system isn't irredeemable, just the corrupt people who abused it. As they stop at a traffic light, Marcus studies his sister's profile. Mom would be proud. Dad, too. They'd be prouder of you, surviving, keeping your humanity intact despite everything. The light changes to green. They move forward together. This badge isn't just Washington's, it belongs to every person who's waited for justice. Reform isn't about revenge. It's about rebuilding what was broken. Marcus lost 15 years, but his experience will save countless others. Was that a twist you saw coming? Dr. Washington turned the tables on those corrupt officers in a way they never imagined. If you enjoyed this tale of justice served cold, hit that like button right now. Your support helps stories like this reach more listeners who crave that perfect moment when the villains realize they've been outsmarted. Don't miss our next jaw-dropping story. Subscribe to Beat Stories and turn on notifications. Every week, we deliver justice thrillers that will keep you on the edge of your seat during your commute, workout, or whenever you need an escape. Tell us in the comments. What was your favorite moment when the corrupt officers realized Dr. Washington was their new boss? Beat Stories, where justice always gets the final word.
Sometimes the most powerful revolutions don't come with noise, just one person standing their ground. At Beat Stories, we highlight those moments that shift the balance. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, because every week we bring real stories that shake the system.